Hey everybody, welcome back to Audio Underground. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Bands You Should Know, where we take a deep dive into the wide world of music and shed a little bit more light on some lesser known acts that we feel are well worth sharing. This week we're going to take a trip to Tokyo, Japan, in spirit anyway, and look at the Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra. Jeez, that's a mouthful. Let's jump in. First, a little bit of history on the band themselves. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, also known as Skapara or Skapara, depending on how you pronounce it, was formed all the way back in 1988 by percussionist Asa Chang, and they started out as, well, let's just say orchestra is a pretty fitting name, a 10-piece ensemble composed of course, drums, guitar, bass, a singer, keys, and then a massive horn section. Man, all kinds of saxophones and brass instruments, a lot of players doubling on multiple instruments and then also singing backup vocals just to give them a really full sound and a wide range of things they can do because they have such a large instrumentation. It gives them a lot to work with. This is reflected in a lot of their music, dating all the way back to their initial 1989 eponymous EP, which they released on vinyl exclusively with a local independent record label. The level of success that record achieved, coupled with the live performances they had been doing, was actually enough to get them a deal with Epic Records, which is a pretty big label throughout the world. And this did a lot for their career. It helped the entire world discover their very unique sound. Let's actually take a quick look at that in more detail. I'd like to take a minute to talk about kind of where ska started and where they fit into the picture, because ska as a music genre dates all the way back to the 1960s, where it got its start in Jamaica as the precursor to rocksteady and reggae music. Ska from this era was a lot closer to the reggae of the time and the reggae of today than the ska of today. It was a lot more laid back and a lot more, I'd say, vocal heavy. There wasn't quite as much emphasis on horns, although later ska bands, especially in the third wave when it really took off in the United States, began to put a lot more emphasis on having a bigger, more powerful horn section and gave them a lot more to do in the songs that they play. But in between there, so we had the 1960s first wave or original ska in Jamaica, and then it moved to the UK in the 70s with bands like Madness and the Specials, who started to pick up these old records and put their own spin on them. There are a lot of covers of original ska songs that came out of these, they're called two-tone or second wave ska bands, and they also started to cover non-ska songs and write a lot of originals as well, of course. This gave ska an entirely new life, and it actually made it pretty popular throughout the Western world when these bands, again from the UK, started to tour internationally and spread this music, which really in turn spreads a lot of joy. Fast forward to the 1990s, skipping past, I suppose, the inception of Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra in '88. We'll talk about them in a minute. But in the 90s, American bands started to pick up ska as well, and this is where third wave ska was born. Sublime is probably the most well-known ska band, although a lot of their songs are pretty different from the traditional third wave ska that's played by bands like Real Big Fish or the Toasters, who are a lot less well-known. There's also the ska punk scene, comprised of bands such as Less Than Jake, and then there's almost fourth wave ska in the band Streetlight Manifesto, who got a slightly later start and have put, once again, their own spin on this, but depending on who you ask, it might still be considered ska punk or third wave. That's nerd stuff, though. Back to Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra and what they did, because while they were jumping in kind of between the second and third waves of ska, they gave it certainly its own twist. And the way they go about producing ska music is, I suppose, maybe what you would expect of a Japanese band listening in on what the Western world is doing and recreating that with some of their own local flavor. There is a lot of differentiation, let's say, in how the vocal parts are performed, and a lot of these songs sound like they're definitely going for a ska feel, but again, they put their own twist on it and did a little bit of what just came naturally to them as original members of the Japanese underground ska scene and kind of underground music scene in general in Tokyo. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra has gone through a number of lineup changes over the many years that they have been a band, which makes sense because it's been about 35 years since they were first started by that percussionist Asa Chang, and since then he actually left the band to pursue solo work in the 90s, and a lot of other members have gone in and out as well for various reasons. There are still a lot of original members in the band, and what was once a 10-piece band has since 2008 been a 9-piece band, still touring internationally. Skapara actually played Coachella back in 2019 and have played a lot of other large concerts and festivals throughout the Western world as well. They've really taken off worldwide, which is great to see because their music just has so much joy in it, and they're clearly just out there having a great time doing what they love to do as they share their gift with the world. They're really starting to grow more. They have a lot of monthly listeners on Spotify now, and I think people are starting to catch on to ska once again. We might be about due for a fourth wave, actually. I'm not sure. It has been roughly 20 years since the third wave came along, and that seems to be how these things tend to shake out. And that's really all I've got for you today. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra is a very unique act that is keeping ska alive not only in Japan but throughout the rest of the world as well, as they continue to tour internationally and put out almost one album every year. They've also started to collaborate with a lot of artists from different parts of the world, performing songs in English, Spanish, Japanese, you name it. They're clearly a very talented group and a fun-loving one as well. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra is certainly one for the record books. They're an incredibly unique act, even among the ska world, which is already full of a lot of very interesting and wacky bands and characters. If you get a chance to check out any of the videos below, let me know what you think. And again, tell me who I should talk about in the future. Always looking for some new material. Not to say that I'm running out, but thanks for tuning in. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. See ya.